So I can legitimately say the PlayStation 5 SSD 5.5 gigabits a second. Holy smokes. This could be game changing in terms of memory IO bandwidth. In fact, it could be so game changing, it could change how games are designed. And so there's some thoughts that I have on the conference. There's thoughts I have overall with Xbox Series X, PlayStation 5, but I'm going to focus in on obviously a couple of pieces. Marketing, just the specs alone, and it doesn't matter. I mean, that's really going to be the conclusion of this video. You're welcome to go, because at the end of the day, it's going to be all about the games and how they're developed. And obviously we're seeing many shifts overall in how games are designed and delivered. I just finished watching kind of the live stack, the game stack for Microsoft for their Series X and X Cloud to see if there's any major announcements, but it was really just more of a panel. So there wasn't too much that we can really bring to the conversation here other than what Microsoft has already been sharing, the fact that they've already been testing out these services in tandem. But I'm going to first start with PlayStation, especially PlayStation 5. But to understand it, we need to talk about PlayStation 4, because we have videos, it exists on YouTube, talking about the road to PlayStation 4. And that presentation was pretty much similar to what we just experienced with the road to PlayStation 5. All of this to me looks more like a marketing snafu, in which that if you look at the history, they had GDC in which they more or less did the reveal around that time. Then they did the road to, play PS4 prior to E3, when people really wanted more of that technical detail as to why they made the design decisions that they made. And then eventually they had the E3 presentation, which still to this day, I think lives as a very solid moment in time within gaming history, talking about just the price and trading games. So what happened today? What overall are my thoughts? And we shared this on on our live stream. Our reactions aren't great. It was a very dry stream. It was very technical. I got frustrated at multiple points in time during the stream, but there's some really good stuff too. I know a lot of people looking at the audio presentation to hopefully help those who are hearing impaired, to make audio and gaming both immersive and more accessible. I think that's really a good takeaway. Obviously, we now have actual specs and we can compare them line by line to the Series X. And here's where it gets interesting. Okay, yeah, 12 versus 10. Okay, like what, you can easily see which is bigger. It really is hard to say what matters in this case. So I think what this all comes down to is 4.8 versus 5.5. If there is such a major difference, if the teraflops and how the whole system and their velocity architecture that they have for the Series X can't make up that difference, what you'll end up probably seeing is that the 5.5 being regulated to first-party exclusives. Obviously, PlayStation came out and said they believe in hardware generations, where Microsoft is trying to take it into the kind of the cell phone model, in which that like games will have to say you at least have to have a Series 4 or a Series, an Xbox One X, which might be a Series 2 to play this game. So there's blending of generations on the Xbox side, and on PlayStation side, it's got the hard lines. And so that's something we definitely learned from today's live presentation. All that being said, though, is that with that and with them focusing in on first party, if first party can take advantage of that 5.5, loading speed, it could change how games are designed. Not just how they load, not just how you jump in the game, but ultimately how they're designed with levels, corridors, maps, and more. And that could be really fascinating to see over the course of time. If the 4.8 with the different architecture on Xbox's side doesn't compare, if they can't do it, if a dev can't make that easy leap in that game's design, you're going to end up seeing third parties more or less just regulating it to loading times. Oh, this game loads faster on PlayStation, or this game loads faster, this kind of game loads faster in that regard. So that's going to be really where I think brass tacks comes into play with third party, where a game has to perform the same way on both. If 4.8 can't keep up to Sony's PlayStation, 5.5, the fives, all fives all day, what's going to happen? Well, they're not going to be able to put that game on other platforms, and that's maybe where the cloud comes into play. And there's so many things, and that was kind of my takeaway kind of disappointment, was I was hoping to hear about more architectural design. We see more games coming, into PlayStation Now from the PlayStation 4, and it's like, is this a part of their strategy whatsoever, or are they just making a physical box that's going to exist. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. There's still a market for that. It's actually the biggest market for that. That hasn't changed, and that won't change for at least another generation or more, like a generation and a half. We'll have to wait and see. Like, I don't have hard numbers. It'll be fun to look back on this video in 10 or 15 years to see how right or close or wrong I was in that regard. So hello to me in the future. Hopefully we're all alive. Anyway, that will be really creepy if that's not the case. Anyway, so beyond that, I just really wanted to stress that as a developer, as somebody who is like looking at the numbers, that is really impressive and that's powerful because it could change the way that games are developed and designed. And then you obviously have the power of the Xbox Series X. Microsoft definitely has the most powerful console when it comes down to the numbers, and thus back to the thing I talked about at the very start of this video, it's going to be about the games. It's always about the games. Numbers are a great bragging thing to fight over. While we don't have games, we don't have footage, but it's going to always be about the games. And I, for one, am hoping for more cross-play, cross-save, all of that ability so that people can kind of go and play wherever they want. And that's the future that I'm rooting for, and that's we are obviously welcome to disagree. Whether you agree or disagree, hopefully we hear from you in the comments below. So, I would like to know what you guys took away from the event. If you guys were excited about what was shared, if you were really there for the technical details, if you were really wanting kind of that design details in their decisions. Obviously, I think the majority of people were frustrated by the event, and we talked about this over on Double Barrel Gaming's podcast. We talked about it. We were kind of podcasting, live stream, reacting. I don't know if I'm going to post that. I might just leave that up over on Twitch just because it was very dry. It was very just matter of fact. And the weirdest thing for me was those ghost people, like those like shadowy figures in the foreground. I look at it from just a presentation perspective and thought, I don't know if somebody made that decision because it felt like he was on a green screen. It felt like the lighting was weird. And yeah, it just obviously didn't, with the circumstances that are going on in the world today, it felt just weird. It just didn't feel right. And I thought that, somebody watching that video, like if it was done a couple weeks ago, could have said, let's change this up. Maybe not have the dev ghost audience in this case watching him talk because it just didn't fit with the overall delivery of the message. In fact, I found it more distracting than anything else, and thus that just kind of led to kind of a more disappointing in the presentation. At the end of the day, like we said, it's about games, but this is kind of more a test of marketing. Microsoft, they stepped in it in 2013, but they've been firing on all cylinders from a marketing and messaging. And we've talked about this a couple times here on the channel, where it's like every month you're going to hear the drumbeat of some kind of announcement. And if they don't have an Xbox Series X, xCloud, or kind of a game announcement, it's a Mixer announcement. They're continually in the public, in the conversation, one way or another. And I think from obviously the last couple of years, their marketing team seems to be firing on all cylinders. Sony in this case obviously impacted with the world crisis that's going on right now, so you can't really fault them for that. At the end of the day though, like honestly, they still have the leading platform with PS4. They still have an incredible first party games library. They still have major games right on the horizon to being released, and it's with all of that they can really just show the games. And honestly, from a loading speed perspective alone, not just in how the games are designed, showing up with The Last of Us 2 compared side by side to a PS4 Pro to a PS5, I think that's enough to sit here and sell the PlayStation 5 to people. For me, I've already been sold a PlayStation 5. I've been waiting to get one. I've already been sold an Xbox One X, so I'm looking forward to having both platforms. Yeah, it's great. But anyway, those are my thoughts. I'd love to know yours. If I haven't hit anything, if I missed a piece of, something that you took away that I didn't mention here, again, I'd love to hear from it in the comments below. Guys, if you're new here, those are my thoughts. My name is Brian. This is Work to Game. We'd love to have you back. So be sure, if you feel like we've earned it, hit that subscribe button. And if you're already subscribed, you're an amazing individual. That's what you get by subscribing. You get a free compliment in each video from me. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.